Dame Deborah James' heartbroken son Hugo, 14, carried in his mother's wicket casket to St. Mary's Church in Barnes today as the family finally lay her to rest. The Bowel Babe blogger tragically died aged 40 on June 28, after a brave 5-year battle with bowel cancer. The sun shone down as Deborah's devastated husband Sebastian led the procession alongside their 2 children Hugo and Eloise, 12, as the classic Rolls-Royce bearing the body of the activist Bowel Babe made its way to the chapel. At just after 1 p.m., Deborah's son, Hugo, joined his father and 2 other family members to carry his mother's coffin into St. Mary's. His teenage, floppy-haired head bent, he only wobbled a little, his feet finding their footing for a moment, before he led the way inside the church to say a final goodbye. During the service, Hugo and his sister Eloise, 12, each read out a poem following their mother's wishes. Hugo read a poem he had written himself while his sister Eloise also delivered a piece. Deborah's husband Sebastian delivered a eulogy. Meanwhile, a friend of the family's Natalie Rushdie, who is a classically trained jazz singer, sung a rendition of Tell Me It's Not True by the Blood Brothers following Dame Deborah's wishes. The family then exited the church in silence and bowed their heads before leaving. Meanwhile, Dame Deborah's coffin was driven away from the church. Lorraine Cayley was among the early arrivals, having worked closely with the Vibrant star to raise awareness for bowel cancer on her daytime show. Dressed in black, the ITV veteran clutched onto her phone as she made her way into the church. Other stars turning up to the service were Tom and Giovanna Fletcher, Gabby Roslin, television personality Oliver Payton and singer Natalie Rushdie. Mourners, meanwhile, could be seen carrying wreaths of beautiful white flowers into the ceremony with heartfelt messages and the lyrics from Blood Brothers' Tell Me It's Not True, which the blogger had personally picked herself. The family decided on a picture of Deborah dancing in the sunset whilst on holiday for the front of the order of service. Ahead of the funeral, Deborah's brother Ben took to Instagram to pay tribute to his big sister. The siblings said a heartbreaking goodbye before her death, with Ben jetting off to the United States for his holiday at her insistence. Sharing a selection of videos and photos, he wrote, "Big sis, Debs. Thank you for teaching me how to live life to the full since the day I was born. You made me find that life worth enjoying. Saying bye is never going to be easy, but knowing you achieved more than any of us could ever dream of, and so much more, makes it that little bit more bearable. Your legacy will go on forever and we'll do our very best to make you proud. Take it easy up there. Here's to UX." Dame Deborah organized her funeral in her final days, ultimately wanting her loved ones to share memories of her with her 2 children. Deborah wanted Tell Me It's Not True from Blood Brothers to be played, as well as plenty of tequila at the reception. She expressed her hopes her children would be able to read poems to the congregation if they were able to. She previously told The Times, "It sounds morbid, but I want a somber funeral in black and white because I think people look good in black and white." Dame Deborah James wanted a muted, somber send-off by Emily Redder at the funeral in Barnes. She was flamboyant, larger than life, but near the end of her life, campaigner Deborah James asked those attending her funeral to wear black. For someone so colorful, always in bright lips, it was perhaps surprising. She wanted a muted, somber send-off, fitting of the serious battle for life the 40-year-old had fought. And so they arrived, and arrived this morning ahead of her funeral at Mary's Church in Barnes at 1 p.m. today, all in black. Black suits, dresses and shoes stark against the sunshine. Lorraine Kelly and Gabby Roslin and Giovanna and Tom Fletcher were among the high-profile names to join as the bells began to ring. Deborah James makes Vogue's Influential Women of the Year list 2 weeks after her death. Deborah, or Bowel Babe as she became known, befriended so many during her 5-year battle against her bowel cancer. And inspired so many. Children, older people, mothers, fathers, were all there, too. She touched every age and walk of life. As she made clear, cancer doesn't discriminate. Meanwhile, life went on around, people outside cafes up the road, buses going by, mums with brands gathered, some people stopped a while and then continued on in the sunshine, old folk in boater hats. It's as she would have wanted. She loved life. Some unknowing asked who was getting married. As the bells continued, there was that feel of occasion in the air. Again, you sense Deborah would have loved that. A smattering of well-wishers waited in the warm air for her funeral car to arrive, her family expected to walk behind. I didn't know her, but she made the campaign to fight against bowel cancer very obvious, said Claire Ferguson, 46, a local mum. As a Barnes resident, we took her to our hearts. We see her family walking around. She did amazing things and raised such an incredible amount of money. She was full of character. I saw her around and you couldn't help but want to follow and support her. I just have huge respect. I will stand here until it's done. She's made me more aware. She wasn't much younger than me. When you have a young family yourself, I'm now more cautious than I would have been. That's what she wanted. Many of Deborah's brother Ben's friends gathered outside to offer support. Quiet and clearly moved, they simply wanted to be present, although there wasn't room for them inside. Patrick Aylwin, 32, said, "We are here to pay our respects and support." She was larger than life, she never stopped, that never abated even when she was ill. I think she would feel humbled by this, but it would mean a lot to her to know, if she could see how many people she has helped and touched. For a 14-year-old boy, it would have been the longest, slowest, most frightening and painful walk he had ever taken. It will possibly remain so for the rest of his life. At just after 1 p.m., Deborah James' son, Hugo, joined his father Sebastian and 2 other family members to carry his mother's wicker casket into St. Mary's Church in Barnes to lay her finally to rest. His teenage, floppy-haired head bent, he only wobbled a little, his feet finding their footing for a moment, before he led the way inside the church to say a final goodbye. He went in front, his father behind, their gaunt faces mirror images. He and his sister Eloise, 12, arrived with their father and other family members on foot, walking slowly behind the classic Rolls-Royce bearing the body of the activist Bowel Babe, first diagnosed with bowel cancer 5 years ago, aged just 35. They inched, heads firmly down, faces set in stone. No tears were allowed to fall here, publicly at least. Dressed in black, as Deborah had wished, they kept their eyes wide open, dry. The strength that must have taken those 2 children, let alone her husband, was tangible. They had, after all, been stealing for this day for a long time. But in the end nothing could have prepared them for this hushed street in their bustling hometown, assembled passers-by on the pavement, the ringing bells, the coffin, the roses, the finality. There's a big church in Barnes and I'll leave Seb to decide on the reception, as long as there is tequila. I'm thinking of asking people to bring a picture or a funny anecdote, so my family have something to remember. Otherwise, how can my children collect memories from people in my life they don't know? At 12 and 14 I hope they will remember me, but they are still very young, so my image will fade and they will have to rely on videos or photos. She planned to have ashes scattered at the cemetery across the road so she wouldn't be lonely. Close friends and family attended the private service in memory of the star, who touched so many lives. The former deputy head teacher was diagnosed with bowel cancer in 2016 and subsequently shared candid posts about her progress and diagnosis, including videos of her dancing her way through treatment. She had 17 tumors removed, underwent numerous chemotherapy cycles and developed sepsis earlier this year, after doctors told her she may not survive the night. After long outliving her prognosis, Deborah heartbreakingly revealed in early May she had stopped active treatment and was receiving end-of-life care at her parents' home in Woking. But she lived her final weeks in indomitable style, determined to live whilst dying with rebellious hope, even though she felt knackered. From opera at Glyndebourne, enjoying a trip after hours to the Chelsea Flower Show to see a rose named for her and attending Ascot, the Bowel Babe blogger lived her days to the fullest, all whilst raising awareness for bowel cancer. Days after her final prognosis, Prince William visited her at her parents' home to invest her. "It's quite surreal having a royal pop-in at home," she said. Dame Deborah continued her campaigning by announcing the profits of her In the Style new clothing line and royalties from her new book would go towards her Bowel Babe Fund with Cancer Research UK. Following the announcement of her death, thousands of donations poured in, with many writing an accompanying message of how she had inspired them, until it broke the £7 million a landmark. Her legacy continues as more than 23,000 Brits have approached the NHS for bowel cancer information. Amanda Pritchard, chief executive of NHS England, said, "People often don't feel comfortable speaking about their cancer diagnosis and treatment. But Deborah bravely speaking out about her personal journey has prompted thousands more people to check the symptoms. There is no doubt about it, this has been life-saving. So, our message to you is, don't be prudish about poo, get checked out if you have worrying signs."